So for this project, I decided to use this sequin slightly stretchy fabric from Minerva. I will need a black invisible zipper as well as some black lining because the fabric is pretty sheer. Now, the way that I like to personally work is I like to kind of work backwards. I like to pick out my fabric first and then do my sketch. So after I picked out my fabric, this is what I came up with. So you can actually make this project along with me. I have 2 patterns that you can download for free on my website in the links below. This is the TS-1 pattern, and it is a bodice, and I will add on the SS1 pattern, which is a skirt. So on the bodice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top right shoulder, and I'm going to draw a line all the way to the armhole on the other side to make it an asymmetrical neckline. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back pattern from the TS1. I'm actually going to put the center back on fold. I'm going to trim off the 1/2 inch from the center back and put it on fold to create this back bodice. Next, I'm going to put the front bodice backwards on top of it so I can go ahead and create that asymmetrical neckline on the back as well. For this project, I really wanted a little bit more volume at the top of the sleeve, so what I'm going to do is take my sleeve pattern, I'm going to fold it in half so that I have a guideline to draw a straight line down the center of the sleeve. So eventually you're going to use this line as one of your cut lines, but before I cut it, I'm going to go ahead and draw a few more lines. I'm going to go down from the very top of the sleeve about 6 inches, and I'm going to draw a notch. Afterwards, I'm going to go 2 inches down from that top of the sleeve and draw another notch. Next, you're going to go 4 inches down from the armhole and draw another notch. Afterwards, you're going to connect both of these notches to the original notch that was 6 inches down from the top of the arm. Once you do that, you will have your cut lines. Go ahead and fold the sleeve back over and cut all 3 lines. Before I forget, you're going to go down another 2 inches from that armhole line and draw another line and go ahead and cut that one as well. So this is what your sleeve should look like when you open it up. Okay, listen carefully because this part can get a little bit confusing. You're going to get a new sheet of paper, you're going to draw a straight line across the center of it. Next, you're going to lay this sleeve on top of it, match up the center line of the sleeve that you have with this center line that you have on the new sheet of paper. And then you're going to open up the pieces to somewhat resemble this. It doesn't need to be exact, but as close to this as you can get. The only measurement that I will give you for sure is make sure that that top of the sleeve is 4 inches away from that center line on the new sheet of paper. Go ahead and trace around the entire sleeve to create your new sleeve. When you get to the very top of the sleeve, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to draw a line straight across from one tip to the other. Afterwards, you're going to go 3 inches above that line and draw a notch. Next, you're going to follow the line of the sleeve up to that 3-inch notch and finish out your sleeve. What this is going to do is it's going to create a little bit of structure at the top of our sleeve, and what we're actually going to do is that 3 inches that we went up, we're going to go ahead and sew that together before we sew our sleeve to our bodice. I would definitely put a notch on either side where that 3-inch mark is so that you know exactly how far down to sew it together before you sew the sleeve to the bodice. So the hard part's over. The next part's really simple. All you're going to do is lay your pattern on top of yourself, as well as I just laid my lining underneath that as well. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim about 1/8 of an inch off of the neckline of my lining so that I make sure that it stays on the inside of my dress after I understitch it. Again, on my skirt pattern, the SS1 pattern that you can download on my website, I went ahead and shortened it for this pattern because I wanted more of a mini dress, and the pattern that's on my website is more of a pencil length. So go ahead and do whatever you wish as far as the skirt goes. The only thing that I didn't cut any lining out for is for the sleeve because I wanted it to have more of a sheer look. Okay, now comes the sewing. I always sew my darts first, so I'm going to lay my front bodice and make sure that I sew these 2 front darts first. Afterwards, I'm going to lay my back and I'm going to go ahead and sew the armhole as well as the side underneath the armhole that I'm not going to be putting a zipper on. So I went ahead and sewed the skirt darts as well as the side that is not going to have the zipper underneath the armhole. Next, I'm going to attach the skirt to the bodice. Okay, next comes everyone's favorite part, the invisible zipper. Now, there's a ton of tricks about sewing an invisible zipper onto a dress that I'm not gonna bore you with right now. The one thing I will tell you is make sure that you iron your invisible zipper flat before you sew it onto your garment. This will really help keep the needle away from the teeth when you're sewing it. The next thing I'm gonna do is sew the sleeve onto the dress, but first I'm going to sew the underarm, flip it inside out, and then attach it to my dress. What I do is match up the underarm seam and I'm going to sew all the way to the top of the shoulder and stop. After I get to the top of the shoulder, I'm going to go from underneath and sew that 3-inch excess together to create more of a peaked edge on my sleeve. Go ahead and sew all of your lining pieces the same way that we sewed ourselves. The one great tip that I have for you is make sure that you understitch the lining after you sew it to your self fabric. What this means is you go about 1/8 of an inch down from the seam and you sew a line all the way around. This will help keep your lining inside of the dress instead of peeking out from the front. So the next part is one of my favorite parts about designing. I went ahead and put my dress on the mannequin and decided to drape the front cascade ruffle just because I really didn't have that much fabric left and I just decided to use whatever I had. Now, if this is something that you do want to add to your dress, make sure that you leave an opening on the side of your skirt so that you can go ahead and insert this and sew it from the inside. So next I'm just going to go ahead and ruche it by hand on top of the dress, pin it down, and then I will sew a straight line going down so that I can make sure that this stays exactly where I want it to. Before you take your dress off though, go ahead and cut all of the excess fabric at the bottom. I went ahead and basically shaped my ruffle on my mannequin. This is basically it. I went ahead and stitched my ruffle down onto my self fabric and not my lining, and sew the hem of the dress as well as the hem of the sleeve. And just like that, this dress is done. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to see what I make next. And again, you can download these patterns for free on my website with the links below. Bye for now.